Nadia with Next Best Picture.
Hi, Nadia.
Hi, it's lovely to meet you both. Thank you so much for being here. I actually had the opportunity to speak with Shannon Murphy last week. So when I found out that I would be speaking with the two of you as well, I got so excited. What a wonderful team. Dying for Sex is one of my favorite shows of the year. It's absolutely heartbreaking and very funny at the same time. And I just think it's such a beautiful embrace of bodies and intimacy. And I think there's an incredible discipline to what you've both achieved on this series in terms of the structure, the tone, visualizing intimacy and desire on screen. And so I wanted to start by asking, when it came to adapting the podcast, could you talk us through what that journey was, how you both heard about it, and what potential you saw in it to create this incredible series from it?
A producer friend of mine emailed. First of all, thank you. That's such
thank
a
you.
sweet, amazing thing to say. A producer friend emailed me about it, and I listened to it like right away, and I was just like, it was so exciting because I'd never heard anything like it. It was not something I ever could have imagined. It felt like such an crazy mix of so many things. It's like I can't, like, it started off in just such a funny place, and then by the end it just kind of felt like it dug deep down into the soul, in a way that felt really unique. So yeah, I mean, I love really interesting female characters, and I love things that aren't supposed to be funny that are funny, and um and I I hadn't written like a good old fashioned sex scene in a long time. So I was like, although I don't know if I would characterize these as good old fashioned sex scenes, but yeah, I was in the middle of doing The Dropout, and Kim, as someone I worked with on New Girl for 6 years, and also knew from New York when we were both playwrights. And I just thought, I knew that her sense, like, she would like it. I knew she'd like it. But I asked her to help me with it.
Yeah, she sent me the podcast, and I had the same reaction. I just listened to it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" It had like so many different things that I feel like we're always like, "Oh, I wish I could make a story about that," And then you're like, "Oh, but I can't." And then it was like female friendship, like sex, like body, like self acceptance, like shame, death, life. And I love that it was just a story about a woman having a sexual awakening while dying. Like, it felt like there were so many juxtapositions in the story just inherently that felt like Liz was saying, just something that I had never even conceived of being possible, actually, like expanded my idea of what like life could be, or like, in a lot of ways. And so yeah, just and yes, like Liz was saying, the tone felt so exciting. The way that they found humor in like the darkest parts of this story was really just great.
Yeah, the tonal balance is really fantastic. And just speaking to how it's that material has how you both responded to the material, there's something universal about the material, but there's also that specificity from Molly's perspective. And I'm curious, how do you find that balance between you're depicting Molly's reality and also making the adaptation your own in a way creatively?
I mean, Molly is the podcast is so incredible because of Molly and Nikki's work on it, and just like their voices. It's so them, it's like it and just like the bravery of telling some of those stories, and the way that they tell them, and just the love that you feel. So I guess like going into it, the podcast exists, so it's like we're not trying to recreate the podcast, but we want it to take the spirit of what that was, and try to kind of build it out into, like, take her journey like a little bit further than what she got to in real life. Because in the podcast at the very end, she sort of beautifully kind of says she thinks she's ready for love, and we decided to kind of keep going on that path and try to like have her find some love towards the end. And we also made kind of we made a decision to not reveal the sexual abuse, but kind of put it at the beginning and then let it, just like you learn a little bit more about it later on, but that it was so structurally we changed it. But I think what was amazing was that Nikki was really involved and also just really open to kind of what we felt like we needed to do, and just such a kind of like cheerleader when we needed her to be, and then disappeared when we needed her to, and like let us like make weird mistakes and then come back.
Yeah, she also was really open to letting us like explore a version of her character that the podcast is very much about Molly's experience of this, and then Nikki is there as like the interviewer and the person who's reacting and hearing all the stories. But as Liz and I have said, it's like nobody wants to watch a show with two people talking about what just happened. Like it's like that's not good visually. Like and so it was like we had to put Nikki into Molly's story like in the moment as she was going through things. And so I think we really figured out early on that this would also give us an opportunity to tell the story of a caregiver in addition to the person who is sick. And so we really put our version of Nikki, like from the very beginning of the show, like right into Molly's story with the illness and with her sexual exploration. So,
and I think also that one of the things that we talked a lot about early on was the character of Sonia, and just kind of like just adding like a different generation, just like a different sort of perspective on sex, because I think so much has changed, in the 10, 15 years.
We had an amazing writer's room that had people from all different like backgrounds with all different sexual preferences, and also different relationships to illness. And we had people who had taken care of people with cancer. We had people who had cancer. And so we sort of surrounded ourselves with people who had perspectives that were different from our pretty our experience, which was like, only we wanted to make sure that we were representing, like Liz was saying, like a wide range of points of view, because that felt more exciting. And it feels like Molly is awakening to all these different options that she didn't know were possible. And she didn't know it was possible to view them without shame. I do think like a cool thing that's happening is like generations of women now are getting progressively, like hopefully like being
getting progressively shameless.
Yeah.
Making shameless women.
One day that we'll be free of all shame, and then the world will end. Probably that will be the last day.
Not in my lifetime.
Yeah, we won't see it.
Not for me.
Well, that's what's so great about this series, is that it feels like such an embrace of so many different realities, from sexual realities to medical realities to, I mean, we get this incredible friendship too between Molly and Nikki that kind of, I feel like, bookends the show, because we see from the beginning through thick and thin that they're there for each other, and then that kind of comes full circle at the end.
Yeah, and I think there's so many amazing female friendship stories that exist in television and film and literature. And I think Liz and I really we talked about a lot of them, and we watched a lot. And I think we weren't like, oh, we're total. It wasn't like a new idea, but I think what felt really exciting and new was like what they were, the level, the extreme situation that they were in. Again, one is dying, one is taking care of her. It's like that. It was a relationship between two best friends that I think we hadn't seen before. And so
it was interesting that Kim and I, after coming off of New Girl, it's like a lot of the times when we would put those two friend characters in a story together, it would be they have a conflict. And so it was like early on, we had to we decided that we just didn't, there was enough going on. There was enough conflict.
Death is the conflict.
Yeah. So we just decided that they weren't going to be kind of at odds, but they were going to be facing the world together. And it was helpful because I think when we were kind of still trying to figure out like, oh, every episode they have a conflict, it just chipped away at the friendship. So it was actually like so great to kind of like really not do it that way. I don't know if that makes sense, but that, yeah, it was just a joy to write those scenes too, because and then once we cast Jenny and Michelle, you know, just kind of like hearing their voices, and you know, I mean, it's incredible to me that they didn't know each other really before we started shooting, because I mean, I know it's like dumb. I mean, I've worked with actors a lot in my life, but I'm always like just shocked. Like I'm like, like how did they do it? Because it's like they just, their chemistry is just amazing.
Brought a lot of interesting things out of each other. I think like, you know, Jenny is like obviously more known as a comedian. Michelle is more known as like a dramatic actress. And I think when we together, they sort of brought different sides out of each other. Like, and I think that was really cool to watch in real time, because that it wasn't something that we hoped for it, but like I think to watch them, like just that you see really why those two people want to be around each other. Like I mean, you want to be around the friends that make you feel like, you know, the version of yourself that you enjoy the most. And so I think it was cool to watch those two performers bring out like, you know, like different sides of them, of themselves that they had maybe not seen done as much with, like on screen.
Yeah, and they both bring
that like a coherent sentence. I'm so sorry.
No worries. It kind of speaks to, I mean, it's how comfortable that the set must have been as well, you know, and how trusting, because there's such lived-in dynamics that they're both capturing, and they do have these kind of all-encompassing gifts where they can be funny and tragic in the same breath, you know.
That was, I mean, you met with Shannon, I think, and Liz, like, I think both of us, but like, she really also just like, I think really embraced the tone of the show and the fact that it was going to be able to kind of go out wherever it needed to go. And I think she was a real like champion of that, creating that kind of an environment where I think when she's like, don't think about rules. Like you've done enough. We've thought about this for so long, for so many years. Like, it was like, okay, now like, I think she really trusted it. And like that let everybody else on set like trust it too.
Everybody had just like a fearlessness too, that I was like, Shannon just, yeah, I mean, she's just fearless with the camera. Like she kind of like, she'll sort of put the camera anywhere, and it's kind of like this really, it just adds this layer of kind of excitement, and like you feel like you're looking at things a new way. I mean, she has such an incredible eye, and just the colors, and just I don't know, like I was just really blown away. And then the performances are also just fearless. Like I feel like that everybody kind of just threw themselves in this beautiful way. Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking to that visual eye as well, the last episode has this incredible hospital scene when Molly starts to hallucinate and her bed starts to spin. And Shannon had actually spoken about how shooting the scene was kind of like making a musical in a sense.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know how, like, what that scene looked like on the page, because I know you're both also playwrights. And what sort of energy did you want to come through there? And how has your theater experience influenced the way you approach writing?
You know what's cool? We had like theater collaborators come in and work on this show. Like I had like a choreographer who worked on one of my musicals actually come in, Liz, yeah, we know each other. Liz and I know each other from theater. Like that's like how our friendship, like our origin story. So it was cool. And Shannon is a real theater person. That's what was so exciting when we first met her. And she was like a theater nerd. So, and then I had musical theater composers who were like writing little songs for the doctor and that. But how did it look on the page? I mean, on the page, it was just, you know, something that I think we were like, hopefully we can shoot any of this. Like, you know,
I was going to say, like, I just like the first few plays I wrote were they had these like absurdist moments, like parts of a brain were talking, and you know, or like an enormous salmon was a
That was the
character.
first thing I read of Liz's, which like made me like fall in love with her writing and just want to be her friend forever. So yeah, like
So I was like, I came from that, and then I feel like I spent so many years like not doing that. So it really scared me. And like I said, like I kept resisting like putting those kind of magical moments in because I was just so scared because I hadn't done it. I felt I hadn't done it on camera, and I sort of felt like I didn't know how. And Kim really encouraged me, and then also Shannon. Like Shannon loves that stuff, and so it was like she like wanted more and more, you know. So
yeah.
yeah. So that like that was exciting and great, and I'm so glad that like we kind of went for just like these moments because as much as I tried to run away from it, it's like her reality is so different than our reality, and so it felt like every time we tried to like make the scene or make the show kind of not have those moments, it felt like we weren't telling the full story. So I mean, in the end, it was just like I felt like we had to kind of show how her body changed the way she saw the world. And yeah.
It was
and
all
then
the real thing that she
the
said.
penis puppet, I think the penis puppet was like maybe a life highlight for me, and just, you know, also the craftsmanship was really incredible.
There were like 8 different wings to choose from one day. I just remember like remember the wings? There were like all these beautiful wings to choose from.
And then a lot of like at every level there were so many conversations about it where it was like the wings, how the wings moved, the size, the what was left after it flew away.
It had a personality. It was a little bit of like a tease, you know, it would like come close and then
yeah, we had to cut a few seconds from it.
It had more close-ups in our
standards, but yeah, it was there's a longer cut of the penis puppet where it was like a little flirtier. It was kind of like who, me? You know, like, it was great.
See over there.
Yeah.
I would have loved to be on set for that moment.
But it was really cool, and it was again based in like what Liz is like with the real Molly. It was like one line that she had on the podcast where, you know, or one little like a section where she was talking about how she time stopped being linear and she started feeling like things were coming off the walls and she was unlinking. And so yeah, it was grounded in like what her actual experience was.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much more to talk about. Unfortunately, I'm at the end of my time here. So as
Thank
we
you
wrap,
so much.
yeah, absolutely, no problem. And thank you both for your time. This has been such a pleasure, and thank you for being fearless in your storytelling as well, and not being afraid to be funny.
Not the rest of my life.
Everything else very fearful.
Very fearful.
Very afraid.